There's 3 steps that you need to do every time you walk into a room to set up a corporate interview, or any interview for that matter, that makes your job so much easier. You can walk in and in just a few seconds know exactly what you're gonna do, where you're gonna put your lights, how you're gonna set up your shot. Almost every interview you've ever seen uses this technique. It's easy to pull off, and I'm gonna teach you how to do it in this video. The first thing you wanna do when you walk into the room, you have your gear, maybe your client's already there, maybe they have yet to show up and you've never seen this space before, is look around the room and identify your background. The majority of the time, you're gonna wanna shoot into the corner. Most of the time, we're in boring conference rooms or just generally uninteresting spaces. And by shooting into the corner, you add a lot of visual depth. You have leading lines that bring us to our subject's face. It helps draw the eye into the subject of our image. It also adds more depth. Step 2 is something that I realized that I started doing on instinct. Then I realized, wait, there's an easy way to think about this that will save me so much time if I just go into the room thinking of my setup in this way. And it's as simple as this. It's key, director, camera 1, camera 2. Okay, much later Jacinto here. Depending on how you think about it, it could potentially go camera, director, key. But we'll get into that later. It'll all make sense still. Just for some people, you might want to think about your camera first rather than your key, but personal preference. All right, so now I'm actually going to show you what this looks like. So we have the corner that we talked about in the last step. And so now that we have that, we're going to place ourselves. So the director is wherever the subject is going to be looking at during the interview. What really is the important factor is it's the bridge of their nose, because the bridge of their nose is where shadows fall. If we have our director here, we're going to bring in our key. Our key would be like this. Right in here, about 45 degrees off from our director and pointing straight at our subject. And then we'll bring in our cameras. So camera A, or camera 1, would go right here, 45 degrees off to the other side of the subject. If it's a 2-camera shoot, camera B could go over here. Now, you can see the lines that we're kind of drawing out here, right? Is that we have our key coming in this way, and we have each of our cameras capturing different angles of our subject. And in this way, as we talk to our subject, all the key light is on the right side of the interviewer, and the camera is on the left side of the interviewer, meaning that they're again on that shadow side. So this is what I was referring to when I was talking about key, director, camera, camera. So that's the question you need to ask yourself every time you come into one of these spaces is, okay, here's my shot. We're shooting into the corner here. Okay, that means that I want camera here. So then we're gonna go director, key. A good trick to know for setting up your B cam is that your A is typically a wider angle, like a 30 or a 50 millimeter on full frame, and your B would be 2 steps up. So if you're on a 30 on your A camera, your B camera would be somewhere around a 70. If you're a 50 on your A camera, your B camera would be somewhere around a 100. It's a really great way to do it. You always want to put your B camera a little bit further back and maybe a little bit higher in elevation as your A camera. It kind of just lifts the stakes a little bit, gets that differentiation of view. Because sometimes it's easy to get disoriented around what you're putting first and what you're putting where, but as long as you remember this order, you're ready to move in and set up your cameras and your lights for any interview project. The third and final thing that you're gonna want to think about when you're setting up your documentary or corporate interviews is what I think of the extra bonus items that you can add in to really make that image pop. This could be a bounce or another light, a hair light, and an edge light or a kicker. These extra modifiers just add that little bit of pizzazz, that little bit of separation from the background, a little bit of that production quality that can really make your interviews look extra good, impress your clients, and lead to more work. As I mentioned, one of these things that adds a ton of value is a hair light, which is typically a tube light. So we have a tube just overhead here, boomed out on a C-stand that is basically giving us this extra light down here on Barry's shoulders and lighting up his hair a little bit. That does a lot for us to separate him from the background. The other addition would be an edge light or a kicker. And for me, I like to put my kicker on the shadow side in the background, casting a little bit of light through in here and onto his shoulders. Again, it separates from that background and adds that extra visual kick that really elevates images. Last thing I'm thinking about in the situation would be a fill. My go-to is always just a 5-in-1 reflector, and I like to stand that up right around here just outside of camera shot and then bouncing a little bit of this light back onto my subject shadow side of their face. It helps kind of flatter the subject. It's less dramatic, unless that's the look you're going for. For corporate stuff, we don't want to be too dramatic. You could put another fixture in here that adds more gear and more tinkering, when I find that a bounce really does the job so well. More gear means more people means more money. That's part of why I love this industry and this job so much. It's this balancing act of solving problems with limited resources, which is something that I really enjoy doing. Here's another example. This is exactly the same situation. He's here looking at me. I have the same key on this side, same 2-camera situation, hair and a kicker. And I did have a bounce just right as in here, acting as a fill, kind of filling in these shadows a little bit. Let's look at one more. This was a really great shoot. We had a big, nice soft source over here. And then obviously our camera 1, camera 2 angle here. So you can see you just get both of those sides, and in your camera 2, you get that darker shadow a bit more, which for this story was really, really good to have a little bit more drama as part of it. We also had a tube right up here outside of frame, which is lighting up the side of his hat. It's motivated by this light, which is really handy. Additionally, a lot of this edge light is motivated, even though we have a kicker over here shooting over at his shoulder, this is kind of motivated by this light and this light. Of course, there's tons of exceptions to this rule, but this is a great place to start if you're beginning your journey as a cinematographer or video producer. What are some ways that you've devised to actually improve upon this and make it better for you? I'd genuinely love to know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.